A sincere welcome to you who are genuinely on a quest, who hear not just with your ears but with the full depth of your being. Every spiritual path reaches a stage where accumulating more information fails to satisfy, where another aphorism, another seminar, or another teacher can't patch the hole inside. You start to sense that the guidance you seek isn't external, it's a quiet hum resonating from your own core, waiting for you to quiet down, to cease explaining, to stop performing, and to finally embody. But there's a paradox here, one you might have brushed against but never fully grasped. When you unearth something truly transformative within yourself, when you connect with an insight that reshapes your reality, a powerful impulse arises to broadcast it, to articulate it, to declare it for all to hear. This is perfectly normal. It's the mind attempting to certify its own discovery. Yet timeless wisdom advises a different path. Hold your peace. Not because the revelation is wrong or needs to be concealed, but because certain truths, when articulated prematurely, lose their creative force. Some insights are like newborn flames. You don't expose them to a gale to prove they can burn. You cup them with your hands. You shelter them from doubt. You give them oxygen and stillness to grow into an inferno. The unmentioned secret is that broadcasting an early breakthrough is a function of the ego. We articulate our growth to be recognized. We want applause for the jewel we have found, but genuine wisdom never grows in the soil of external approval. It is cultivated in the solitude of application, in the crucible of testing, in experiencing your realization, not merely recounting it. An awakening is attended by a specific ache, for you will perceive the world in ways others can't. You will move with a different rhythm. The objects your sight once cherished will lose their gloss. The din of the world will start to weary your ears. You will emotionally and spiritually outgrow spaces you once yearned to inhabit. And within that evolution, there is an island of solitude, the sort of aloneness that craves expression, that tempts you to justify your new self, to show others that you have changed, that your vision is now sharp. Yet stillness is your greatest guide, because in that quietude you aren't trying to persuade anyone, you are simply living out the truth you have discovered. The potency of your inner shift is not measured by the number of people you inform, it is measured by how profoundly it becomes part of you. Hold your peace, not because the world is unworthy but because that which is sacred demands your protection. A day will arrive when you observe how easily our energetic currency is spent on words, how frequently we forfeit our strength by detailing the very thing we should be embodying. You will grasp that not everyone requires a key to your soul's chamber, not because of their character, but because their own journey has not prepared them for it. Many are still exploring territories you have long since departed, and should you offer them the coordinates to your destination, they might only belittle your journey. They haven't acclimated to that altitude, and it is not your mission to give them a verbal lift. You are on this earth to evolve, and authentic evolution is almost always quiet. It takes place in those private instances when you choose principle over impulse, when you step away from conflict rather than feed it, when you stay present with your discomfort rather than escaping from it. These are the moments that forge an unshakable character, not the instances when you talk, but the moments when you choose. So the next time you feel a significant shift within, when a realization blossoms and pushes to be spoken, just hold it. Ask yourself, is this revelation meant for broadcast, or is it first meant for me to integrate? Almost always the answer is the latter. You must give yourself the gift of internal assimilation. Let the wisdom alter you completely before you seek to alter your world with it. Because when an insight is truly integrated, when it has become bone and marrow, you have no need to explain. Your very presence will communicate it. Your energetic field, your deliberate choices, your calm, these will resonate with more power than any sermon ever could. This is the way you build true influence. This is the way you become anchored. You stop verbalizing your progress. You cease chronicling your inner journey like a live report, and instead, you operate as if the change is already your fundamental state. Know this profound secret, and after you know it, hold your peace. There is a quiet principle in the universe that is rarely discussed because it cannot be intellectualized, it can only be experienced. The principle is this: when you verbalize an insight too soon, it evaporates, not because the insight is weak but because your internal wiring to it is still new. When you first contact a deep truth, it feels like an electrical charge. It flashes through your consciousness like lightning, and suddenly, everything clicks into place. The struggles, the sorrow, the bewilderment, all become clear within a grander design. In that instant, the desire to share it feels like a tidal wave. But here is the guidance rarely offered: not every truth is ready to be spoken. A revelation is like a precious metal. If you don't have the crucible to shape it, you can get burned trying to handle it. Your first epiphany is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of a much deeper, more personal practice. To speak about your inner finding before it's settled is like pouring life, giving water into a vessel full of cracks. The value leaks away. It is squandered. You must understand that your words contain creative energy, but they also carry a deep responsibility. To speak of transformations you have not fully absorbed is to sketch a map of a land you've only seen from a distance. The details will be fuzzy, the proportions wrong, and anyone attempting to use that map will be led astray. The discipline of staying silent after a realization is not a form of self-denial, it is a form of protection. It protects you by giving your mind, body, and soul time to synchronize with this new understanding. It protects the insight itself, allowing it to embed itself deeply into your behaviors, your reactions, your entire character. Because until your daily movements are a reflection of your epiphany, that epiphany is just a concept, and concepts are fragile. They can be warped not only by our own doubts but by the reactions of the world when we give them voice. When you present a major insight to an individual who is unprepared, you are not really giving a gift. It might feel generous, but in truth, you are putting your own fragile growth on the line. You are entrusting something precious to someone who cannot appreciate its significance. They will question it, belittle it, or reject it outright. And if you are not yet unshakable, their dismissal can make you question yourself, potentially unraveling a moment of pure, hard-won certainty. In this way, the part of you that craves an audience can disguise itself as altruism. I have to share this, it insists. But truly wise beings do not hurry to lecture, they allow their own lives to become the teaching. True mastery is never announced. A great oak does not trumpet its growth when it produces acorns, it simply stands tall quietly and resolutely. Those who need its shelter are drawn to it. Similarly, your own inner growth will eventually be seen in the way you hold yourself, in how you act under duress, in the grace you show others without any expectation of praise. This bearing will say more than any declaration. It's crucial to realize that some individuals are energized by your self-doubt because it affirms their own stagnation. If you declare your newfound clarity to those who are determined to remain unchanged, they will instinctively try to drag you back down, not from any evil intent, but from fear. Your development is a mirror to their own inertia. Your certainty illuminates their own confusion, so they will poke at you, not because they think you are mistaken, but because they desperately need you to be. And if your foundation is not yet solid, their pressure can make you sway. This is precisely why silence is your first and most loyal ally, not permanent silence, but just long enough for your insight to crystallize into unwavering strength. Only speak when your words are no longer seeking validation. Only share when your conviction cannot be dented by disapproval. At that point, you are no longer attempting to persuade, you are simply demonstrating what has become real for you. There is yet another dimension. By withholding your insights from speech, you allow them to act upon you directly. They begin to reshape your patterns in subtle ways. The quality of your morning attention, your capacity to listen deeply, your ability to walk away from drama. These are the markers of genuine transformation. They are not loud, they do not crave an audience, but they are absolutely tangible. People in your life will notice it. Even if they lack the words for it, they will feel the change in your frequency, a certain gravity, a grounded presence. That is the vibration of a person who has discovered something immense and has held it in quiet reverence long enough to become its living embodiment. So next time a profound awareness dawns, resist that powerful impulse to vocalize. Let your stillness be its guardian. Let your quietude be its nursery. Let your behavior be its proof. And after enough time, when the seedling has become a mighty redwood, you'll see that you don't need to say a word. People will be drawn to you not for your pronouncements, but for your way of being. And on the rare occasion you do speak, everyone will listen, not because of your volume, but because your silence has already captured their full attention. That is authentic power. That is understanding what to know and when to say absolutely nothing. A hard but vital truth of life, one that few are ready to digest, is that not every person is prepared for your discovery. Not everyone possesses the vision to see as you now see. And not every heart has been conditioned to bear the weight of what your soul now carries. When wisdom makes itself known to you, it lands like a precious endowment, but our common error is to believe it will be welcomed as such by all. It will not, particularly if it was unsolicited, and especially if people are still entrenched in the very worldview you just transcended. The inherent quality of truth is its capacity to be disruptive. It shatters comfortable falsehoods, casting a bright light on corners people wish to keep in shadow. It beckons us toward growth, but growth is rarely comfortable. So when you present truth to the unready, it will not be embraced. It will be met with opposition, dismissal, and sometimes outright hostility. Picture yourself entering a space where everyone has been living in darkness for a long time. Their senses are adapted to the dim light. their peace is built upon the quiet. And then you arrive, fully awake and radiating clarity, holding up a lantern. You believe you are helping them. You feel you are offering your gift of light. But to them you are a disturbance, not because your illumination is false, but because it destabilizes the reality they've constructed around their own unawareness. In life, resonance is everything. A truth spoken out of sync is worse than an outright fiction. This is why true wisdom cultivates patience. When you grasp something profound, something that fundamentally changes you, your first duty is not to go out and convert the world. Your duty is to absorb that truth, to live by its principles. Let your very existence become the proof of what you've understood, because unless someone is actively searching for an answer themselves, your words will only register as noise, or even worse, as condemnation. This is most challenging when the people you care about most are the ones who are still in slumber. You ache for them to awaken. You desire their expansion. You want them to witness the same expansive view. But personal evolution can't be imposed. It can only be chosen. It's a path one must walk personally, not a package that can be delivered. A butterfly can't coax a caterpillar out of its chrysalis. It can only demonstrate the freedom of flight. To share your deepest realizations with the wrong audience is akin to sowing your best seeds onto stone. Regardless of the seed's potential, it finds no purchase where there is no soil. And if you continue to push, you deplete your own energy and are left feeling invalidated, dismissed, or even wronged. The sting you feel is not from the truth being untrue. It is from your misreading of the receptivity of the soul standing before you. There is also a quiet hubris in the assumption that it is our role to rouse others. It is not. Awakening is an inside job. It doesn't matter how eloquently you speak or how pure your insight is, it cannot take root where there is no opening. You might want to grab people by the shoulders and tell them of the potential they are missing, but until they are prepared to listen with their spirit, your words will not land. They might even be distorted, ridiculed, or used against you. This is why quietude becomes an ally of the wise. In holding your tongue, you are not forsaking your truth, you are honoring it. You are communicating, this is sacred. This is not for entertainment or casual debate. This is a key that opens realities, and I will not force it upon someone who is content to stay in their locked room. Let your actions serve as the invitation. Let the peace you radiate generate curiosity. Let your calm interrupt their storm, not through sermons but by your sheer presence. People are not moved by arguments, they are moved by energy. If you have truly integrated something powerful, it will alter your posture, your decisions, and your core values. Others will feel the shift. They might not speak of it initially, but when the moment is right for them, when they are genuinely seeking, they will come to you and ask. And when that question arises from a place of true curiosity, only then is the door ready for the key. This is how genuine change spreads, not by force, but by resonance. You live your insight so completely, so silently, that it creates a field around you. It becomes an attraction. Those who are ready to rise will sense this pull, and they will approach not to challenge or debate, but to learn. Until that time comes, guard your treasure. Hold it in the sanctuary of your heart. Allow it to mature inside you before you ever mention it. The world might not be prepared, but you must be. Because if you attempt to convince everyone else before your own footing is solid, you risk being pulled back into the very consciousness you worked so hard to escape. That is the quiet peril of sharing what you know too early. Your truth might be real, but if it is still young, the wrong environment can break it. So hold it close. Let your stillness be your strength. And trust that when they are truly ready, they will finally hear you. Until then, walk your path in peace. There is a vast distinction between having strength and wielding power. Strength is the raw capability to act. Power is the refined wisdom to know when inaction is the most effective choice. This is the point where most people get mastery wrong. They mistake power for loudness, for displays of dominance, for outward control. But true power, the kind that reshapes destinies and redirects lives, is silent. It is self-possessed. It does not vie for the spotlight. It makes no grand entrance when it joins a gathering. It has no need to, because its own presence is its credentials. When you encounter a person who has truly navigated their inner terrain, who has faced their shadows, contended with their own weaknesses, and returned with wisdom, you will notice something subtle but potent. They have no urgency to prove a point. They absorb more than they emit. Their very being has a certain weight, not because they are demanding it, but because it has been earned. That quality is restraint, and restraint is the signature of one who possesses great power but has chosen to be its master. We find ourselves in a culture where nearly everyone is desperate to be seen, to be validated, to be praised. Our digital platforms, our conversations, and our very relationships have been turned into arenas for self-presentation. Everyone is broadcasting, yet few are truly tuning in. Everyone is sharing, but what is shared so rarely comes from a place of settled depth. It's a great deal of static, and within this static, the ones who command real influence are the quiet ones, those who recognize that some truths are too profound for common chatter, that genuine insight is not a prize to be displayed but an ember to be tended. You see, restraint is not a sign of weakness or apathy. It signifies that you have trained yourself to override the knee-jerk impulse to react, to correct, to debate, to overpower. It means you can hold a steady silence while being provoked. It means you can permit another person to hold a mistaken belief without needing to intervene just to satisfy your own intellect. That isn't timidity, it is profound clarity. Because the instant you feel the compulsion to prove who you are, you have placed your self-worth in another's judgment. And that is not power, that is insecurity disguised as confidence. There is a rigorous discipline in holding your knowing internally, in not requiring external agreement to confirm its validity. Some realities are designed to be lived, not just discussed. When you realize something genuinely life-altering about yourself or the nature of existence, the first impulse might be to broadcast it. But wisdom is not a spectator sport, it's a dedicated practice. It must first be fully digested, integrated, and made manifest through your daily conduct. Consider a master of a craft. The most formidable artisans are rarely the ones who boast of their talents. They are often calm, unassuming, almost invisible. Why? They have no need to demonstrate their knowledge. It has become their very nature. Their self-control is not an effort, it is an organic state. It is the byproduct of discipline, of countless repetitions, of humbling failures and quiet triumphs. They have learned that real power is not what you can show, it is what you have the wisdom to hold back. This very principle applies to your inner journey. The more deeply you know your own truth, the less you need anyone else to know it. The more profound your realization, the less you feel a need to win an argument. You start to drop the need for applause. You permit others to misread you, to underestimate you, even to mock you, because you have finally understood that your own truth is not contingent upon their acceptance. That is authentic power, quiet, anchored, and utterly unshakable. But this kind of restraint does not simply preserve your power, it amplifies it. Every instance you remain still when it would be simpler to speak, every time you choose presence over performance, you fortify your inner core. You become more aligned, more precise, and more impactful. Instead of broadcasting your energy outward to persuade, you are directing it inward to refine. And with every act of intentional quietude, your own awareness sharpens. You start to see with piercing clarity who is deserving of your energy and who is not, who is prepared and who isn't, what is substantial and what is mere illusion. This clarity becomes your internal guidance system. It steers your actions, not your reactive emotions, because you have ceased reacting and started responding, deliberately and from your center. This is the birthplace of transformation, when your life is no longer a response to external events, but becomes a purposeful manifestation of your deepest knowing. In ancient spiritual traditions, restraint was invariably considered a sign of profound inner maturity. It indicated that you had arrived at a state where your internal peace was sacrosanct, where you no longer permitted external events or other people to knock you off your center. And the most powerful aspect of this state is that others can feel it. They may not have the language for it. They might even be intimidated by it, but they sense it. And over time, they start to approach you differently, not because you demanded their reverence, but because your quiet self-possession sparked their curiosity and made them wonder what it is you know that they have yet to discover. And when they finally ask a genuine question, you will know they are finally prepared to listen. You won't have to persuade them. You will simply speak, and your words will find their mark because you waited, because you respected your insight enough to protect it, and because you did not drain your power by trying to demonstrate it before the time was right. This is the definition of walking with quiet authority. This is what it means to possess the secret and keep your peace. There comes a moment in every deep journey when the most influential thing you can possibly do is remain silent, not out of a lack of anything to say, but because you have learned that silence itself is a powerful form of communication. When used with discernment, it communicates with greater impact than any explanation, debate, or justification. Silence is not the absence of authority, it is the presence of it. In the initial phases of a personal awakening, we often feel an intense need to articulate ourselves. We wish to share every new thought, every feeling, every epiphany. Like a cup filled to the brim, we feel we must pour ourselves out. With time, however, we learn that not everyone is capable of listening with equal depth. Not every person is prepared to accept what took us so long and so much effort to grasp. And critically, not every environment is worthy of our energetic output. That is the point at which silence becomes a conscious strategy, one born not of timidity or compliance, but of pure clarity and wisdom. In silence, you can audit your own intentions. Are you speaking to get approval, to prove you are correct, because your performing self needs the stage? Or can you be quiet in order to conserve your vital energy, to allow others to be in their own process without it unsettling your own tranquility? Silence forces a level of self-honesty that speech can easily evade, because once you strip away the layers of explanation and defense, only the unvarnished truth remains. To face that truth without the buffer of words is where authentic growth occurs. There is an age-old discipline found in stillness. The rest of the world hurries, declares, reacts, posts, and performs, but you do not. You observe, you sense, you understand. You learn to perceive the unsaid. You tune in not only to the words spoken but also to the gaps between them. You begin to notice the agendas, the masks, and the motivations that most people completely miss. In quiet observation, your perceptive faculties are honed. You grow more attuned to energetic signatures, to minute shifts in vocal tone, to the unspoken emotions people carry. This isn't just accidental intuition, it's a highly cultivated awareness, and it is forged in the furnace of silence. Imagine the greatest masters of any art. Their prowess lies not just in their technique, but in their capacity to observe their subject, to await the perfect moment before making their move. They are poised, centered, and quiet, and when they act, it is not from impulse, but from deep knowing. The same is true in life. Once you master the discipline of quietude, you no longer talk simply to occupy space. You talk because you have a genuine contribution. And when you decide to hold your tongue, it is an intentional exercise of power, not an admission of defeat. In our closest relationships, quiet presence can be more reparative than a heated discussion. Often, people don't require your solutions, they just require your calm presence. Sometimes, they don't need to hear your voice, they need to hear their own. When you cease interrupting their inner experience with your own narrative, you grant them the space they need to reflect, to process, and to find their own resolution. That kind of silence is an offering of profound love, not of disinterest. It conveys your trust in their ability to find their way, just as you found yours. And concerning your own journey through hardship, silence can be a hallowed refuge. You don't need to publicize your struggles for them to count. You don't have to provide a running commentary on your healing for it to be authentic. Some of the most profound healing unfolds in the quiet, when you can be with yourself in total stillness, free from outside opinions, and allow yourself to simply be, to feel whatever arises, to accept it fully. This is the space where alchemy happens. In that silence, the fractured parts of you begin to reintegrate, not through force, but because you finally gave them the space to do so. Silence is also a guardian of your future. The more you discuss your grand dreams, your bold plans, and your high-minded goals, the more you expose them to the corrosive elements of doubt, jealousy, and external interference. There is immense power in moving quietly, in building your vision without an announcement, in evolving without an explanation. Let your results create the conversation. Let your state of peace be your testimony. When you hold your deepest intentions as sacred, they gather strength. They become deeply rooted. They are nourished not by public applause, but by their intrinsic purpose. And lastly, silence cultivates patience. The external world will constantly try to get a reaction from you. Individuals will probe your boundaries. Life will present scenarios that seem to cry out for an immediate response. But in stillness, you learn to wait, to observe, and to act from a place of strength rather than from raw emotion. This does not mean you are muted forever. It means you speak with deliberate intention, with absolute clarity, and with resonant impact. Your words, when they finally emerge, carry authority because they have been tempered in the fires of silence. This is the great secret that so many fail to grasp. They believe that power is loud, that wisdom needs to be explained, and that truth must be shouted from the rooftops to be real. But those who have seen behind the curtain know differently. They know that silence is not an empty space, it is a full one. It contains your strength, your depth, and your insight. It is your boundary, your meditation, your declaration, and your shield. So when you truly know something, not just with your mind, but in your soul, your heart, and your bones, resist that urge to shout it to the world. Instead, allow it to inhabit you. Let it steer your actions. Let it redefine your habits, because the world has enough noise already. What it desperately needs are more people with the courage to be quiet until their true moment arrives. And when it does, they will speak not to be seen, but to illuminate. Until that day, let silence be your guide. The road to deep wisdom is not paved with endless talking, it is carved out of silence, fortified by restraint, and walked in a state of self-contained peace. Once you have truly internalized this, once you have experienced firsthand the generative power that silence contains, You will no longer feel any compulsion to convince others of your worth. You will stop chasing the external approval that once felt so necessary. You will stop fighting the battles that your own soul has long ago transcended. You will simply exist in your new state of being. And this becoming happens in the quietest moments, when there are no witnesses, in the sacred hush of dawn, when you are alone with the rhythm of your breath, in the late hours of the night when you review the choices you made, not for self-recrimination but for the refinement of your path. It occurs in your stillness, in your patience, in the way you deliberately respond instead of mindlessly reacting. It is forged in the words you choose to leave unsaid, the triumphs you don't feel the need to broadcast, and the pain you don't feel the need to justify. There is a deeply formidable quality to the person who has outgrown the need to be loud. This kind of power is absolute. It is deeply anchored. It doesn't rise with praise or fall with criticism. It isn't reliant on being recognized or understood. It simply is, like a great mountain unshaken by the raging storm, like the flame of a candle that holds steady in a gust of wind. The one who possesses a deep truth and chooses quietude is not hoarding a secret from others. They are protecting the sanctity of something they have earned, because that is what insight is. It is earned through direct experience, through hardship, through failure, through difficult decisions, and through quiet resolve. And the more profound the truth, the less inclined you are to discuss it flippantly, not because you are secretive, but because you hold it in reverence. You feel its gravity. You recognize that wisdom isn't a trophy for a display case, it's a catalyst for deep change. And before it has a chance to change anyone else, it must first be allowed to thoroughly change you. So you hold it within, you let it temper your reactions, you let it clarify your intentions, you let it pacify your ego, and you allow it to serve as a compass that remains true even in the most disorienting landscape. You no longer search outside yourself for validation, because you have learned how to tune into the silence within. And inside that quiet space, there is not only clarity but also a profound peace. The kind of peace that is not dependent on circumstances going your way, but from your own release of the need to control every outcome. A peace that remains stable even when people misunderstand, doubt, or attack you. You do not engage in fights to prove your point, because your energy is now a sacred resource. Your time is a sacred resource, and your inner state is no longer up for public debate. You do not give it away so easily. That is when your life truly starts to transform, not because the outer world has changed, but because you have. And your own transformation, while subtle, becomes undeniable to those around you. You carry yourself differently. You speak from a different place. You make decisions rooted in purpose, not in panic. You invest your energy with great wisdom, and you guard your internal silence fiercely. You no longer allow noise to occupy your heart. You no longer permit confusion to dictate your course. You have become still, and in your stillness, you are powerful. People will sense this long before they can articulate it. They may not know what draws them to your presence, why your infrequent words land with such resonance, why your calm demeanor feels like a harbor. But it is because you have done what very few will do. You have journeyed inward. You have sat in the silence long enough to learn that not everything needs to be verbalized, that not every insight requires an audience. Some truths are meant only for your own soul. So when the world attempts to pull you back into its own drama, when it dangles the bait of applause, of argument, or the promise of recognition, remember your purpose. You are not here to make a splash. You are here to be clear, to be centered, and to be real. And often, the most real thing you can ever do is to say nothing at all. Let your existence be the testament to what you know. Let your deeds echo the wisdom you have gained. Let your silence be a lesson louder than your voice could ever be. That is how you gain respect without ever demanding it. That is how you create influence without using force. That is how you protect your own power and continue your growth without interruption. Because once you've found the true secret, once you've experienced a clarity that cannot be bought, challenged, or faked, you will understand perfectly why it must be protected, not from the world, but for yourself, so that it can continue to guide you, so it can continue to shape you, so it can keep doing its silent, profound, and transformative work within your very being. In a culture fixated on speaking, practice the discipline of deep listening. In a world hooked on constant distraction, cultivate the courage of stillness. And in a reality obsessed with being noticed, choose the quiet way of becoming so deeply present that they feel your power even when you say nothing. That's when you will know the secret was never something to be declared, it was something to be lived quietly, fully, and completely.